There's a rule in conversion optimization that basically everyone agrees on. Shorter forms convert better. Fewer fields, less friction, more signups. It's been repeated so many times that it sounds like a law of physics. Here's something that actually happened. A company redesigned their lead gen form to make it significantly longer. More fields, more questions, more apparent friction. But their lead generation went up 368%. That number is real, and understanding why it happened changes how you think about every form you build. I want to be careful here, because I'm not about to tell you that shorter forms are wrong. They're not, most of the time. The case for reducing friction is solid and the data behind it is real. But what the industry doesn't spend much time on is the other side of the research. The situations where adding friction does the opposite of what you'd expect. Where a longer form produces more leads, better leads, or even both. So this video is about that, what's happening psychologically when it works, when it doesn't, and what it means for how you build campaigns. The logic makes sense on the surface. Every additional field is another decision point. Another moment where someone thinks, do I actually want this? And closes a tab. Studies show that dropping from 5 fields to 3 increases completions. 3 to 1 increases them further. The frictionless path wins. That's true for a lot of contexts. Low consideration opt-ins, top of the funnel content offers, situations where you're asking someone who doesn't know you yet to hand over their email. The shorter the form, the lower the perceived cost. Makes sense. But there's a hidden assumption in that logic, that the goal is to maximize the number of people who will fill out the form. And for a lot of businesses, that's the wrong goal. In the 1950s, General Mills was struggling to sell Betty Crocker instant cake mixes. The product was almost insultingly easy to use. Add water, stir and bake. It should have sold itself, but it didn't. A psychologist suggested removing the powdered eggs from the formula and forcing people to add fresh eggs themselves. So more steps, more friction, and objectively a worse convenience product. But sales jumped. What happened was that the act of doing something, actually contributing labor to the outcome, made people value the result more. The IKEA effect, as it's now called. People place higher value on things they had a hand in creating. This maps directly to lead generation. When someone fills out a longer form, when they've had to think, specify and make choices about their situation, they are already more invested in what comes next. They didn't passively receive something. They participated in getting there. That psychological investment has a downstream effect. They're more likely to read what you sent, and more likely to respond, and more likely to convert eventually. A long form doesn't just ask more of a person filling it out. It selects for a specific type of person. For businesses where lead quality matters more than lead volume, like B2B, high-ticket services, or anything where one bad lead wastes an hour of a salesperson's time, that filtering is worth a lot. A form that generates 200 leads a month at 5% close rate might be worse business than one that generates 60 leads at 25%. The raw numbers don't tell you which is which. This is what happened in that 368% case I mentioned in the beginning. The redesigned form was longer and more specific. It asked harder questions, but the leads it produced were better qualified. The sales team closed them at a rate that more than made up for the smaller pool. The friction wasn't a bug, it was the mechanism here. The question isn't short or long, it's what is this form actually trying to accomplish? Top of the funnel email capture for a content audience? Shorter is almost certainly right. The person doesn't know you well yet, the commitment is low and the relationship starts after they subscribe. There's no reason to make them work harder to get in the door. If you're capturing lead for a service business, a SaaS free trial, a premium consultation, a longer form starts to make more sense. And they want to feel like they're being taken seriously, not added to the generic sequence. The form is where that calibration happens. When someone specifies their industry, their team size, their timelines, the perception shifts from I'm giving away my email to I'm getting something designed for my situation. Multi-step forms in OptinMonster are built for exactly this. The first step captures the email, the low friction entry point that secures a lead even if someone drops off. You get both, a completed lead from anyone who makes it past step 1, and the additional data from the people who go all the way. The shorter is better rule is right often enough that it became conventional wisdom, but it's a default, not a universal law. Before you cut any other field from your next form, ask what you're actually optimizing for. If it's raw list size, go shorter. If it's the quality of the conversations that follow, the revenue per subscriber, how well what you send matches what people actually need, it might be worth adding an extra step. Multi-step forms in OptinMonster are how you do this without sacrificing the easy entry point. There's a link in the description. And if you want to go deeper on what to put in your campaigns once you know who's opting in, that video is right here. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.